It's so funny because today I actually took time setting up my setup instead of just like setting it up, laying down for a little while, and then freaking out and running over and probably kicking my light and kicking my tripod, because the setup is much better. Hmm. Hello, Friendzies, welcome back to my channel. I want to talk about something that I find incredibly fascinating, and it like every once, you know how every once in a while you have like a thought of something you know already, like you already have this knowledge and it already exists in your brain, but every once in a while it comes like to the forefront of your frontal lobe and you're like, holy shit. Every time I have this thought, I like bring it up to my friends and everything, and nobody ever seems as absolutely blown away by it as I do. Maybe because time is fake and half of us have time blindness and the disassociation is so real. But I want to talk about the way that everything happens at the same time so much. Everything happens so much, point blank, period. But everything happens at the same time so much. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Because you don't like, there's never any really context, I feel like. Like the American school system, which is the only school system I can speak on because I went to public school my entire life. The American school system really, I mean, I don't know if this is true for other countries, but if you're American, you know how it is, and if you're not American, the news isn't always lying, I'll tell you that. Americans are. Anyway, the American school system really only focuses on like the events of America. The only time we focus on events outside of America are when we're talking about us being the good guys or us talking about why we had to be the bad guys of other situations. It's very bizarre. But we really, I feel like American citizens in the American school system really only have context for like what happens in history and just like in time through an American lens, obviously. And I feel like that might be true for other countries. But again, I don't know if you guys have like similar ways of teaching. Anyway, like events in history we talk about and we're like, oh yeah, like the fucking gold rush was like so long ago, and like the Industrial Revolution. Like I feel like we have a better concept of time. Mm, I say that, and then people forget that Ruby Bridges is like in her 60s and not dead because we like to put pictures in black and white a lot of the time here in America to make them seem like it happened a long time ago, and in reality they weren't actually that long ago. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's besides the point. What an American white woman admitting she's wrong call the fucking presses. Anyway, that's not where I wanted to go with this, but I wanted to just like talk about how timelines are the same. Like they feel like I have a couple like events that I wrote down, and again, I have notes, my little B notes. But I have my little notes because again, I can't double check on my phone, but I wrote down a couple notes because I want to just talk about how crazy shit is. My favorite one is, I mean, most people I feel like in the world know about Nintendo, the video game electronics company, because I feel like most, if not all of us, kind of grew up with video games, but maybe some of us didn't. So if you don't know, for whatever reason, Nintendo is a video game and electronics company, and they make probably some of the most the most popular video games of all time, if not necessarily in sales, then in like cultural impact, right? Nintendo was founded, the video game and electronics company was founded in 1889. So not like close to the 1900s, but not even the 1900s. 1889, mind you, also in 1889, Van Gogh painted Starry Night. And for the Americans here, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Washington were established as states in 1889. That's, as it falls, to me, that's nuts. Because, like, I know that fact about Nintendo. I've known that fact for a while because I love video games. So I watch a lot of, like, video game history and theories and this and that. And you can't really watch anything about individual games until you learn, like, you'll learn certain aspects of companies for games, because a lot of times events that happen at companies influence games themselves and games that are published throughout their time. So I've known that fact about Nintendo for a while. I didn't know that was the year that Van Gogh painted Starry Night. I didn't know that was when 4 of our states were established as states. And that's what I kind of try to say is I feel like, again, I can really only speak as like an American citizen, but depending on where you live, you really only have like historical context for one area of your life. Unless you decide that you want to look into like other aspects of the world and other pieces of history. Like every autistic kid, I can say this because I'm probably autistic. We're like 98% sure that I'm autistic. So I'm not making a generalization. I'm making a generalization about myself and my friends. All autistic kids seem to have a very specific 1 or 2 points in history that they hyper fixate on, right? Like I was the Romanovs, and the Anastasia movie was my bread and butter. Loved that shit. I was that and the fires in California that were caused by the earthquake in the year that I can't remember, but the earthquake in the early morn Magic Treehouse book was the one that I read the most. The fact that I can't remember the year now is hilarious, but I will put it down here. So you know what I mean? Everybody kind of, I feel like people have very specific like niches for what they want to talk, like think about and talk about in history. But unless you have that niche and that desire to like reach out to it, you don't really, you just know that it happened at some point in the past. You don't have like a direct timeline, but that's a direct timeline. And every time I seem to bring it up to like my friends, nobody like, I don't know if they are just completely like, holy shit, or like, they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. But to me, every once in a while, that's one of those things that comes to the front of my mind. And I'm like, everything's connected. It all happens at once. It's funny because I really wanted to make this video talking about this because I feel like it's not, again, like, I don't know. I don't know if people, oh, sorry, moved my camera. I don't know if people like ever really think about that. Like I said, I don't think about it often, but every once in a while when I do, I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I just wanted to talk about this anyway, but then some things happened the other day when I'm filming this. Some things happened on the 4th of January. So when you're watching this, on the 4th of January, we had some very interesting things happen in my home that I don't know, I kind of like put in perspective in a way. I am incredibly lucky and privileged to have the home that I live in right now. I know that because American homelessness went up 18% in 2024, and I could have been part of that percentage. There was a very, very real chance that myself, my family, my 2 cats, our rabbit, were all going to be part of that 18%. We were very, very close, realistically. So I know that I'm incredibly lucky and privileged to have a home, period, but also to have the home I have. However, as an American suffering under the boot of capitalism, I have never been middle class. Not once. I've always been lower class. Let's just put that out there. There is a lot of things wrong with where we live that are not acknowledged and weren't acknowledged until now that we live here. And we are saying to our landlord, this is a fucking problem and needs to be fixed. So the other day, because I literally say it was the 4th, and I like make a point to say this because then later that day, I ended up having really bad stomach issues that like were a problem and kept me up for half the night. So like the whole day, I was like, it is only the 4th day of the year. Can we be fucking done with it? Can it just be over and can it be the next day? The other day, someone came to work on our yard, question mark, which I don't know why our landlord sent somebody to work on our yard because the leaves and sticks in our yard are not our top concern. We have a lot of other top concerns. However, it was a very extremely windy day. It was cold because I'm in part of the polar vortex line, not necessarily where we're going to get the worst, but like, you know what I mean. So it was cold and everything's very dry where I am right now. And this man, we have like a fire pit in the backyard, but it's like my brother's cleaned it out a million times. And then every time he cleans it out, it rains and like he has to clean it out again. This man threw a bunch of construction stuff that was left from another thing that had to be fixed at my home into the fire pit and just lit it all on fire to the point where the smoke was like, it looked like a forest fire. it was going towards the house because of the way the wind was blowing. The fire was like moving towards my home. He didn't clean up around the fire pit, so when the fire was jumping out because of the wind, it was catching on leaves. Like, it could, and like our neighbors must have called because we live kind of close to a bunch of people now, and somebody must have called because the fire department showed up to be like, hey dude, what the fuck are you doing? So that was all that day. And like I said, I'm incredibly grateful and like privileged to not be part of the 18% of homelessness that homelessness in this country has jumped to 18% this year. And like I said, we're very, very close to being part of that, and we're not. So I'm incredibly privileged and thankful to my biggest complaint to be about a yard work man almost setting my yard on fire. Like, it's weird because perspective wise, and talking about timelines and things all happening at the same time, that's all happening. And I'm like, just can't help but laugh because like, what is my life? But at the same time, that's all that's happening. Weapons created and funded by the United States are being carpet bombed on Palestine and Lebanon and Syria. Because a lot of another timeline connection that people make are that Martin Luther King Jr. and Anne Frank were born in the same year. Martin Luther King Jr. obviously being a civil rights leader, and Anne Frank being in the Holocaust. That I was going to say all acknowledge, but a lot of people don't acknowledge it anymore. A lot of people seem to pretend like, or to believe that it didn't happen. Concerning. But this is another Holocaust that's happening in Palestine. That's happening at the same time as American homelessness rates skyrocketing. It's interesting how people think things aren't connected. All oppression is connected. Anyway, so it kind of put me into perspective because, like, I don't have to necessarily be thankful that things aren't worse. You never have to be thankful that things aren't worse. If you're upset or suffering in any way, you're allowed to be like, what the fuck, this sucks. However, it is good to acknowledge that other horrible things are happening in the world when you have a minute to acknowledge it. Okay? So, yeah, I don't know. It was weird to me because I was like, that this man is like about to set my house on fire, like, because he's a fucking idiot and clearly doesn't know what he's doing. But people's homes, which are just tents at this point in Palestine, are intentionally being set on fire by people that are just horrible and evil. My government here in America, crazy. So, friendly reminder that we're still doing this past January, but all of January we are doing my birthday campaign, the Sharky Chico birthday campaign, where we are taking Rami's family, whose goal is to reach 75K total. Ideally, by the end of January, we would like to get them to 8,000, because me plus all of the subscribers here on the channel, we have one or two more than last video. All of us, if we donate $5 minimum, which is the minimum you can donate on GoFundMe, $5 minimum, this is how much we can get them. It's $1,880. That moves them from what money they have right now in their GoFundMe above the 8K goal that I have set for the end of this month. Similar to Sajut's family. I have hers written down because her end goal is a little harder to read. So Jude's final goal, $113,390. And again, if we all, everybody here, plus me, donates $5 minimum, $1,880, we get her over the 2,500 goal that I'm setting for the end of this month. I dropped it again. Her goal for the end of the month is 2,500. Because if we can do bite-sized goals, like sharks, we're biting bite-sized goals. If we can do bite-sized goals, then we can absolutely help both of these Palestinian families reach their goals to evacuate the genocide that is happening in real time at the same time my yard is almost being accidentally set on fire. Or like K-pop wise, like Stray Kids is breaking records. Like, you see how I'm connecting the dots. I don't feel like, what is it? It's the guy from Always Sunny where he's like to his board without the dots connecting, how I said like with the what happened to the occults video for The Sims 4. I don't feel like that right now. I feel like I am actually connecting dots. You didn't connect shit. I did this time. I did connect something. That's the video. I don't know if you guys were expecting something else. And next week is like gonna kind of be serious too. I feel like this isn't as serious, but we're ramping up to serious next week before the week after where I have silly, goofy birthday times. Because I am gonna have silly, goofy birthday times because sometimes you need a little joy in your life, okay? So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. And if you have like any kind of weird, I can't believe all the, don't mind me just like fixing my boobs. I'm wearing like one of my little frilly bralettes for the first time in like a while. And I'm just like, are they up there? Sorry. But if you guys have any other, like, I can't believe these things happened in the same year, let me know in the comments because I am actually fascinated by them. And don't forget, the genocide is happening in Palestine and Israel is continuing to spread their violence, funded and provided weapons by the United States. Bye!